and welcome to TSP Weekly. This is your tech startup podcast for Thursday, December 11th, 2014. Today we are once again recording at the beautiful Communitech Hub here in Kitchener, sitting amidst the pipes and concrete walls and exposed brick, and this is, you have to have this kind of hip building these
We're in
days.
the Brack Mill room today.
The what room?
The Brack Mill. I'm reading it backwards from
I think it's Bark.
Bark Mill.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is what happens when you try to read things backwards. Let's do some introductions. My name is Darren Conley. I'm a local tech entrepreneur here in Kitchener-Waterloo. And joining me as always is my wonderful co-host, fellow tech entrepreneur Stephen Campbell. How are you today, Stephen?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Salutations. I'm excited to learn that Communitech now has gone with the mug route.
Right.
So they used to have paper cups. Now it's mugs. So I grabbed a quick cup of coffee before we started, standing there with Alan Quarry, and he made me pick out a mug.
He's a local kind of media
guru.
Guru. Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah.
So it took me a little longer because there were several fashionable mugs up there. I went with the all gray because it matched my shirt today.
Excellent.
But there were several that were very into. They have Communitech mugs up there now.
Wow.
It looked like there was a Canadian Tire Innovations mug.
Excellent.
I know TD Bank is now here at Communitech doing some stuff.
It's a true sign of prosperity for a tech, hub when they move up to real mugs from
Pout
disposable.
Remember Pout that was on our podcast? They had their own chapstick, which was very impressive.
My wife makes regular use of that chapstick.
Yes,
actually.
I often have Pout on my lips.
Right.
Yeah. So you've truly made it when you have your own chapstick.
Of course. And on that note, let's introduce our guest that we have today. So joining us today, we actually have three guests with us, and two of them are going to have to share one mic because our budget only allows for 4 mics, but that's okay. Joining us today are Brett Madill, Chris Recalis, and John Mardlin from Clipter. I hope I said all your names right.
Yeah, that's great.
More or less.
Yep.
Not too
Excellent. How are you guys doing today? Okay.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
I also got my blue reusable mug.
Yes.
Very nice.
You guys are very well mugged.
I'm the jerk with the paper cup from the coffee shop.
But you are supporting a local business here around the holidays, which is very important to buy local. That's Cape out of Walmart.
I don't even have a mug. I'm not drinking anything. So what does that say about me? I don't know. I'm not supporting any business, I suppose. Give us just before we dive into talking about some tech news and stuff, give us a quick kind of intro or overview as to what Clipter is, just to kind of whet people's appetites.
What's the teaser, guys?
Before we talk about it a little more.
So Clipter is a collaborative video app.
Okay.
So it lets people really easily put together video stories on their phones with their friends. We can dive into more later. But there's your teaser.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds good. All right. Well, let's talk a little tech news here, guys, before we get into Clipter a little bit more. A few interesting stories we want to kind of cover today. The first one is a new app. It's a game, actually, a role-playing game called High School Story. I think high school for some of us was a little bit longer ago than for others.
17 weeks, I counted.
17 weeks.
Yeah, ago. Yeah,
only weeks?
Well,
You're
I
just
know
a
it was
confused old man.
months. Yeah, just move the decimal.
That's right. I guess so. High school might be a more recent memory for some of us than others, but that's okay. This game is trying to kind of be socially beneficial, I guess,
right?
As well as being fun, helping high school students to learn about how to deal with cyberbullying properly, how to deal with eating disorders, how to study a little bit better for their SATs, and hopefully it's actually fun as well in the process. So there are SAT trivia questions incorporated into the game, for instance, and beyond that you have kind of your typical Farmville-ish type setup where you can buy currency and use that to get fancy clothes. And
I think their in-game currency is called a ring.
Yeah.
So you can buy rings.
Sure.
So
I don't remember
setting you
rings
up for marriage
being
already.
popular in school myself. But
Subliminal messaging in it already.
Yeah.
That's right. So first of all, let me ask, do any of you guys typically play, not necessarily high school games, but like Farmville type, online role-playing type games, or no?
I never got into, Facebook had the whole Farmville era.
Yeah.
And I never really got into that. I'm just trying to look at this and figure out what kind of a student is prepping for an SAT, something as serious and life altering as that test is going to be. And
yeah.
playing a video game to do it. How serious are you taking it?
Well, I think like video games are just a part of the culture now, right? So it's like if you're watching TV and preparing for your SATs, or
might as well do both.
Whatever. Yeah,
I think you're just getting old, Brett.
Maybe that's it.
Could be.
Yeah, but President Obama was on the Colbert Report the other day because he's trying to talk to the Utes.
Right.
So, I think there is an opportunity for a different vehicle. Like when I look at this, I think eating disorder, nah, pass. Bullying, not going to pick up that game.
Right.
But when I see the SAT, I think, well, there maybe is an entry point for me because I can see myself as a teenager not wanting to open the textbook anymore and looking for a new way to study.
Right.
And this might be something, this would be the only entry point for me to play what I'm looking at the game wise is to get that kind of a benefit, because the other stuff doesn't appeal to me. I wouldn't be looking at it for cultural high school tips.
Right.
But if it had an actual, look, we're going to help you with some SAT questions, and it was legitimized somehow through the school to say these are, real questions, or these are going to help you, or if you pass this level, you get the sticker, or I don't know. That would be something of value to me. But otherwise, I wouldn't. I think I'd just pass by this one in the because that is the gaming market. Those in high school. Yeah. It was lucky to study SATs because I was gaming all the time, right? So if you could get my attention through a game to get a little SAT work in, maybe.
But when you were in high school, the gaming world was like the original NES, probably.
No,
maybe not.
It's been an evolution, but I've always been a PC gamer, right? So I've been on the cutting edge of the graphics and stuff for a while. But so I spent hours and hours. Like I remember Wolfenstein 3D.
Right.
And the Nazis needed to go down, and I only had so much time before class. So,
and if they had SAT questions worked into the
right, Nazi how many killing. Nazis are in the room with one grenade? How many? Some sort of.
I've always found it difficult to find that fine balance in gaming between, or in educational gaming, let's say, between. The fun aspect and the educational aspect, or maybe even for something like this, kind of the preachy aspect, right? Because when I play a game, I'm not necessarily looking to grow as an individual. If it happens, okay, but really I just want to have fun. And that has to, I think, kind of be the top priority, right?
Yeah,
if I learn something on the way, okay, fine. If I, develop a more healthy perspective on the world of cyberbullying, that's great. But if it's not fun, I'm going to disengage very quickly.
Right. It almost feels like a trick. Like you're being tricked into learning through gaming. But like when I was a kid, I wanted to play shoot 'em up, like fun games like that. So
sure.
I guess it all depends on how the education gets worked in there. If
it's
it's really fun or not.
Well, and if you look at, I don't know if you guys ever watch any like old like 80s sitcoms or anything like. I don't know.
Not again.
Like Family Ties or The Cosby Show or something.
Yeah, I watched them the first time.
But it's funny when I've gone back and looked at them again, like so many of those sitcoms are working like these life lessons into the stories, right? Like, and these days, if you're watching, I don't know, Big Bang Theory or something, it's just like joke after joke after joke. They're not trying to teach you a lesson. But back then, like this was the regular entertainment fare, is we have to kind of have a moral, even like early Simpsons episodes, a lot of times there was some kind of moral component, right? Yeah.
And the moral story's changing, because remember in the 50s, it was Jackie Gleason was the whole thing for the honeymooners was one of these days. He was, every episode, he was talking about punching his wife so hard she would go to the moon. So you can't really do that anymore, or they don't. So TV has changed and the narrative has changed a bit, right?
Sure. And so now
for the better.
With games, I actually don't want to sound like I'm putting this down. I hope they can pull it off well. Like I hope they can make something that's engaging as well as encouraging personal growth among high school students. But I've just seen so many failed attempts in the past. So I don't know. We'll have to, I guess, keep our eye on this one. Any impressions, you guys? Like, have you ever played games like this, or felt like a game was getting preachy with you when you were playing it?
No. But I guess my impression just from looking at the screenshots of the game is that it looks like it is maybe not as information dense as it could be. Like I see that map and you're moving through it and it looks like there's a lot of wasted time between learning.
Right.
I think of are you aware of Duolingo? It's a language learning app that I've used in the past, and it's really fun and addictive, but still all just do you know Spanish or not kind of thing. So
sure.
Yeah, I think that's a better, I think, gamified learning model.
Right.
I haven't played the game though, so
listen to this guy.
So one of the concepts that I've learned this last stint at Conestoga is called the flow, and that's sort of what you were talking about, Darren. When you're playing a game, and I think it relates to the educational aspect too, is if it's too hard, you get frustrated and you get out of the flow, and if it's too easy, you get bored and you get out of the flow. So there's sort of an angle that goes between the poles, and I would say probably the same for education. I'm postulating here, but that if it's too couched, and come on, you're just trying to get me to add 2 + 2. This isn't a game. Versus if it's too hard, and we're trying to find the module of some different mathematical, Drake's equation or something like that. So then you have to stay in the flow to keep engaged. And that would be a different flow for a teenager than for us, I would imagine.
Right.
So they've got a lot of fine tuning to do. I don't see any social chatting really application in there. Like you said, there's a lot of empty space in it.
Right. Well, we need to get some teenagers to try it out, and then we can find out.
That's the real test. That's when you
That's what it comes down to. And they seem to be getting some traction because so far I think they've said they have 12 million downloads and almost $10 million in revenue so far. So
must be working then.
Yeah, they're doing something right? So as far as it actually helping with cyberbullying or people get better SAT scores, I guess we'll have to wait for that data to come in, right?
Yeah.
But let's move on here, guys. So moving away from the gaming space and into home management, there's a new startup down in the States, the Happy Home Company. The idea with this startup is, if you're an apartment renter, typically if anything goes wrong, you call up your landlord or your superintendent and it gets fixed, right? Broken refrigerator, window that's not closing properly, whatever it is. It's a very easy kind of workflow to get things taken care of. But once you own your own home, things get more complicated. Either you have to be a great handyman yourself, or you
have a lot of money.
Yeah, or you have to start hunting around for all kinds of professionals to take care of your plumbing or your heating or whatever the issue might be. And what this company, Happy Home Company, wants to do is kind of give you that renter's experience while you're living in your own home. So they will assign you a home manager, and if something goes wrong at your place and you don't quite have the handyman skills to take care of it yourself, then you can call up your home manager, and they have a list of qualified professionals that they've already kind of sussed out and compiled, and they can send.
They use Angie's List, do they?
I've never used Angie's List, to tell you the truth, but maybe they do. I don't know. But really, for anything you need done, so gardening or simple repairs or whatever it might be, your manager kind of takes care of it for you, and they take a piece of the fee for themselves. So it's an interesting concept, I think. Especially someone like me, who I would say I have very, very little handyman experience or skills myself. I would love to kind of think, well, if something goes wrong, I have one number to call and I know it's going to be reliably taken care of. Having said that, I am not a homeowner. I'm still a home renter. So, so I haven't really had to, take advantage of something like this yet. So, but what about you guys? And first of all, is anybody here? I think Stephen owns his own home. Do any of you guys own a place yourself yet?
No.
Still in the renter's world?
Hell no.
That might be smart.
And now let me ask you then, are you against ownership, or you're just nowhere near the place in life where you're ready for it?
I think that's a good question.
Yeah?
I would like to own a place if it were the right place. I'm not so much interested in... Yeah, I feel like it's a good deal renting and having somebody look after it for the most part, and also having like the flexibility to be able to up and leave a place if it's not working out.
Sure.
Though I would be interested in having a nice little place in the country.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that renting doesn't quite substitute for.
So you want to skip straight to buying your second home?
Pretty much.
Yeah. I like that.
All right, makes sense. So, Stephen, as the only homeowner participating in this podcast, does a service like this appeal to you?
We have to talk about my dishwasher that broke down last week.
Oh, did?
Yeah,
okay.
It did. So I have a friend that I went to high school with, which, as we've previously discussed, that was only a mere 17 years ago.
17 years even seems a little bit...
and it might be more than 17, yeah.
Because I think it's more than that for me.
I just grabbed that number
Maybe
out of the
it took
air.
a long time finishing high school. Anyway,
So my dishwasher went down, and that became increasingly a concern for me as my wife decreasingly or increasingly expressed her displeasure at not having a dishwasher anymore.
Sure.
So I got the kids involved to start washing dishes because it's a process. I tore it apart myself to see what's up. I'm an electronics guy and a coder and a fixer, a problem solver. So, I took the drills out and unscrewed it and turned the power off and watched some YouTube videos on the make and model. And so there's some research you do on how, because we bought the house and the dishwasher was there.
Sure.
So we thought it was fairly new.
Yeah.
So now I'm looking at the model number and online trying to find out how old is this dishwasher and what are the common things that break in it. So 3-4 hours later, I've pulled it out and unscrewed everything and almost killed myself making sure the power's off.
Sure.
And I've identified nothing. I don't know what's wrong with it. I've probably broken it a little more, actually.
What was wrong with it before you took it apart?
It broke.
Like it just was.
It was
no
not
power?
working. Yeah. So the panel slowly, when you would touch, wash, the light would slowly dim, and then it eventually died. So that's where I looked.
Power issue at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
That's where I looked, and there's circuit boards and stuff, and it's really interesting because they're all coated in silicon.
Right.
So it's like this circuit board, a printed circuit board that's all covered in rubber. It's really neat looking. So I stared at it for a while, and then eventually I called my my buddy from high school. And he said, if it's sort of over 8 years old, then don't bother because dishwashers have a life.
Just
it's about
replace
10, 12 years. Yeah. But if it's 4 or 5 years old, then we'll get a new flux capacitor for it. And,
sure.
And it'll go
Technical term for it?
Thank you. Yeah, so. So I didn't want to just say, let's buy a new one. So this is McCullough Shoe. Hi, McCullough Shoe. They're out in Guelph.
Oh, they're the people who are fixing your dishwasher?
And I think it's just Shoe. I don't think McCullough's there anymore. That's
fair
how
enough.
long I've known this business.
Okay.
So Shoe's Appliances out of Victoria. But he drove all the way over to Kitchener with his repairman just to do a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Which is, again, sort of $50, right?
Yeah.
And yes, it was the circuit board, and it was dead, and that's $400 to replace 2 of them. And so we got a whole brand new dishwasher. But the process took 3 weeks, and the guy had to come out twice, and great service. Got a great deal with my buddy. But, couldn't have been any quicker, really.
Sure.
So it did take a while, and I could see handing that off to somebody.
Sure.
My wife was very pleased that she was able to hand it off to me. Not pleased it took 3 weeks.
No, of course.
So what I don't really understand about the Happy Home Company is how they substitute for most of that. Like what?
That whole process. Like I had to be there to meet the guy, to come in and out, and the only
you
thing,
knew the guy too.
Yeah.
In a situation where you wouldn't have known which plumber or not which plumber.
Which appliance guy. Yeah.
Appliance guy.
Yeah. Are they going to send somebody to your house to hang out for that 4-hour window?
Apparently, this is one of the things they offer. Seriously, it says in the article if you're getting your cable repaired, they can have somebody wait for the cable repairman to show up and make sure the work gets done. Right. So I think
they even said gardening or something, right? Which is kind of weird for me that you get somebody to come over and
on there,
weed your
plumbing,
garden.
carpentry, everything.
Yeah, it's I think the value proposition is call one number and let them take care of all of the nitty-gritty details, right? Including waiting for the guy to show up, which I think is great, and especially for in this day and age, I'm sure they're appealing to the busy professionals who don't want to have to take half a day off of work or something to wait for a repairman to show up and get their furnace working again or whatever it is, right? It's that unloading your cognitive stress load onto other places.
I totally think it's mostly the cognitive thing, just the having one number that and not, and I think it's more the thinking and the simplicity there, which is really interesting how much people care about that.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're at all worried about the Internet of Things, because it's almost like there's a 10-year runway there, and then after that, the dishwasher is just going to be able to call my computer and be like, hey, bro, my circuit number 9 is not doing well. So, be proactive about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they'll get there towards that somehow.
Yeah, I think they are smart dishwashers, smart fridges, everything. Right? The Internet of Things is going to have all that connectivity through my washing machine to my toaster to my dishwasher to my fridge.
But I think
to my car.
What it's coming down to is where is that cognitive stress load being unloaded to? So right now, where we see these startups that are allowing you to unload it to other people, in the future, it's going to be unloaded to
your toaster.
To a system, right? To an automatic or some algorithm that runs and sends you notifications location, and off you go.
We don't get to the red light and go, okay, let's all meet about when is it going to turn red, and let's, it's not a cognitive decision. It's just automated, right?
Yes.
And I think that is going to happen with all these things, because then it'll be one repairman that just comes because he already knows. It's like the cop giving me the ticket with Google, because they just know so much about me. They know before I'm going to run a red light. So, they know, hey, you got to work at 8, so we get there at 7 because your toaster needs to be repaired.
Maybe it won't even be a person that shows up.
A robot.
Maybe it'll be a drone that flies down and knocks on your door.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Growing up, my dad is like quite the handy guy, and always encouraged me to kind of be with him and help him as he figured out how to fix things. And
did you absorb those skills?
No, I was always tinkering away on my computer and stuff. But I'm now at a point where I can say, "Hey, look, Dad, I got an app, and I can just call a guy and
I'll call you."
To him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Absolutely.
I think, Brett, it's because you're really into this path talk thing, right? And to me, it's the exact same thing. Like, just it's a trivial task, but it's the thinking about it.
Have you guys seen this?
Which? Yeah.
It's called Path Talk. They acquired a startup called Talk2, and what you can do is just text a business for any of your needs. Do you have this item? I'd like to order Chinese food.
Yeah.
So you text them using the app, and what they'll do is actually get someone to call the company, arrange it all, and then they'll text you back with the information. So you can completely offload the phone call and just have a texting conversation with the business.
Wow.
So is it trying to replace the phone calling with texting, essentially, like in the process?
Yep, and the on hold, the wait times. Let's offload that to someone else.
It's like having a personal
free
assistant.
too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how they could do that for free.
For now.
Interesting.
Well, no, I think
business
they're
gives them a cut or
a
something?
lot of the answers will probably just build up a database and it's pretty cheap to have somebody in the Philippines call like the local pizza shop.
That's true. Or maybe they're just compiling data on the users, right?
For sure, they're headed that way.
Yeah.
I ordered Chinese food with it, and then when I got to the restaurant, I asked her, like, okay, what was this like from the other end? Because I was super curious.
Yeah.
And she said she thought it was weird because instead of her asking all the questions, the guy who called her to order started asking her all the questions. Like, are you this place? Like, what's your name? Like,
right.
So I guess they kind of vet the place and then figure out, okay, now let's make the
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've known more than a few people in my life who would describe themselves as like phone phobic. Like they hate having to call a stranger to deal with something, or not even a stranger. They hate having to call somebody at all because they feel like they're intruding upon their life, too much to do that. So I can see for people in that mindset, right? I can just send a text and then it gets done, and I don't have to worry about being afraid of, calling somebody up or whatever.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem calling people up, but
that's the weirdest thing I think I've ever heard, that some first world dude is going to text somebody to order a pizza, and then somebody from the Philippines has to call the pizza place to order. That's just that.
And it works, and it's magical. It's great.
It's one of those things that if I heard it pitched to me, I'd be like, that startup's never going to fly, man. But
I'm thinking the carbon footprint, but no, there's not really a carbon footprint, I guess, that just to order a pizza, but there's a lot of people involved in it.
It's true. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, interesting.
Let's move on to our last article we want to talk about here, guys. This is the one that kind of caught my attention the most of these three.
It woke you up?
Wakie. Yeah, it's called Wakie.
Let's see what you did there.
Sorry.
Wakie. This is Steve it's part of his contract. He has to put in one cheesy joke per podcast episode. So yeah,
I like it.
I like to call it my condition.
Yeah,
he calls it my contract. It's very nice of him.
Sure. So Wakie, it's an app. It's what they call a social alarm clock. So if you want to be woken up by a phone call from a stranger, or if you want to be that stranger calling somebody else up to wake them, this is the app that enables you to do that. The idea being that, so many people, when they get woken up by an alarm clock, it's very easy to just hit the snooze button, fall back to sleep, ignore it, whatever. But when you get a phone call from an actual person saying, hey, man, time to get up, how's it going? Hope you have a great day, then it kind of engages the waking up process to a much greater extent than your clock would. Right?
Yeah, 1 minute of social talk wakes you up, because I guess answering questions and being nice, because you have to be socially aware of who you're talking to, equals no more sleep.
Apparently,
just 1 minute of that. Yeah, that's really cool.
So, and hopefully, the people who are using this are going to be kind and courteous, and this is a way that you can start your day with talking to a nice person rather than, trying to flop yourself out of bed, annoyed at your stupid buzzer, and drag yourself to the bathroom or the kitchen or wherever you start your day.
And I guess it's 1 minute. It is 1 minute that it actually cuts you off after 1 minute. So it's not like you're going to start engaging in some political or religious conversation with a stranger. You got 1 minute to wake up, and that's it.
Although I think it would be awesome if somebody called you and
it just started
about well, as soon as you wake up the phone, you're like, quick, tell me your views on the crisis in Afghanistan. Like,
click.
That's a wake-up call.
That really gets your mind going.
Yeah, there's a bomb coming. What?
Right.
Fire.
So this is the app. Now, Brett, I think you told me that you tried this app out yesterday, right?
Yeah, so I saw it. It was out on Android a little while ago, and I was waiting for the iOS version, and saw yesterday it came out. So last night I decided to try it.
And how was your experience?
So I set up my alarm for 7:20 this morning, and I was thinking the app would call you, but it was actually a phone call.
Yeah.
From a really strange number. The first one came through, and then it just like hung up.
Okay.
So I don't know if someone tried and got a little nervous.
Okay. Yeah.
But then
and did that wake you up, or were
that woke me up, and I was like, "Oh, well, this app sucks. It didn't work."
Yeah. And here I am up, but wait a minute.
I didn't get to talk to anyone. Cool. But then maybe about 10 seconds later, it rang again, and I picked it up, and this really excited girl said good morning to me, and I was kind of in a little bit of a daze.
Yeah.
But I asked her where she was from. She was from Rome.
Wow.
Rome, Ontario?
No, other side of the world.
Yeah. Did
she asked where I was from, so told her that we were from here, and then it basically cut us off.
Okay.
So it is really quick, so that you don't ramble on.
The 1 minute goes by fast.
Yeah.
More or less. Yeah.
Yeah. But and I did feel woken up right
Okay.
afterwards. Like my brain was going, and then slowly, about 5 minutes later, I fell back asleep.
Oh, really? Yeah. So as you're telling that story, I'm thinking to myself, so what did you think about for the 5 minutes after that 1 minute conversation? Were you in Rome, or were you thinking about this girl at all, or were you thinking about, will that kind of work? Did you go to the app, or what was your thought pattern after that 1 minute?
Yeah.
Rome, because you didn't know where it was going to come from, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it was fascinating that someone on the other side of the world called me to give me a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And just, I guess, the day that we live in, that's now a thing that's possible.
She can order you a pizza, too, bro.
That's what I should have used my minute for.
That's right.
Pizza.
Potentially.
Pizza meat.
Now, emotionally, did you feel like, this is a nice way to start the day, like talking
I now have a new friend in Rome.
to a bright, chipper person?
Yeah, totally. She was super friendly.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just having that friendly wake-up call definitely helped to get
And
me
you got her
Now-
digits.
Now,
it was like scrambled.
Oh, okay.
let me ask, did you have you done it on the other side, like giving somebody else a wake-up call yet?
No, so I've tried and I've been checking all morning. But on the app right at the bottom, there's a button with a number on it. And this is the number of people that want to be woken up right now.
Yeah.
And it just launched. So I'm assuming that there's more people trying to wake other people up versus
wanting to
that
be
want to be woke up. So I can't actually get a call through.
Okay, fair enough.
But I'm curious where this sits
Yeah.
in 2 months. Is there people late for work because not enough people are trying to wake them up anymore? Or?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess at least it doesn't have to be a 1-to-1 matchup necessarily. Like as long as there are more people that want to do the waking than want to be woken, then it should always work.
Yeah.
Right?
And that would be like, it would roll internationally. Like as we're all wanting to wake up here in the Eastern Standard Time, is that Romans are going to bed at that time? Or, so that's how it's kind of have to
That's
work,
the
right?
idea, yeah.
So you can't just focus on North America to get all your marketing, because then you've only got this sort of 4-hour window of wake-upage where you could do across the time zones, but other than that, everybody wakes up in the morning, right? So,
not everybody. Maybe people on
except
shifts
for me,
or something,
who
right?
just went to bed an hour ago or whatever.
But I think it would be funny if you're kind of out at a coffee shop with a friend and then you're like, just give me a second, I got to take care of this. Boop, boop, boop.
A German needs waking
Wake up,
up.
man! Yeah, that's right. I got a dude in Germany that needs to get out of bed.
I got to wake up the guy in the Philippines so he can order me a pizza later on today.
Now let me just say, this is once again one of those apps. The first time I read about it, I was like, this sounds really hokey. Like, this sounds like, who would actually make use of this? But the more I read about it, the more I thought about it, I'm like, it actually does sound kind of cool. Like, and especially having heard now firsthand about that experience, how as long as the people who are using it are not complete jerks, right? I think there's a lot of potential for people to do this, even just on an experimental basis, if not, something more. But
in the ad, in the write-up, they talk about a gentleman from England using it, and he received a call from a woman in Ireland.
Right.
So that was really neat. I don't know if it's going to be a lot of man and women pairing. That's the experiences we've heard so far.
It did ask you that when I signed up. It said, what's your age and your gender?
Okay.
So I'm not sure how it tries to match you up based on it, but there is some demographic numbers that are taken.
Because I can see how, as a single man, that would be a big hit to get woken up by a random, possibly international woman.
Yeah,
that would be a big, maybe not a dating app at all, but that would have some allure to it for sure.
Well, it says apparently the premium version of the app will allow you to extend the talk time to up to 5 minutes, and allows you to specify the gender of the person that you're connecting to, and even to see their profile after the call, depending on how the privacy settings are set.
So there are some strings that'll lead you down the primrose lane there.
If you want to pay some extra money, and part of me feels that. Now, I'm not a single man, but thinking back to my single days, that if I did get waken up by a pretty sounding voice, it would almost ruin the illusion to get more information, to see a picture and all that other stuff. I'd almost rather just kind of
leave it at that.
Keep the mystery and imagine.
But can you imagine the marketing pressure you'd be able to exert on someone? So you're talking to this, you're imagining a woman in Rome, so she can be as pretty as you want to imagine her, and then it says you have 1 second left. Tap to extend for 5 minutes for $7,000 or whatever it is. You're tapping that thing because you will get to talk to her for a little longer. So I can
as long as both people agree or something. Too,
or what about a product placement model? So it's like, hey, you must be tired. You should really get yourself a Tim Hortons coffee.
That's right.
Tim, is that you?
Or I was thinking too, if you had something like where the person who's doing the wake upping can get like a piece of the income somehow. I'm just trying to think.
I want to wake up Bill Gates.
Well, if maybe they get rated, the people who have the best reputation for giving the best wake up calls get in more high demand, then they can generate some income from making more calls or something like that.
So what do you do for a living? Well, I wake people.
I wake people up.
I got a 5-star rating.
Interesting. I'm thinking more of people who are like actual like vocal talent, right? Like people who are trained to speak into a certain situation in a certain way, voice actors.
You're talking right straight to me. I hear you.
Yeah. See, there we go.
You and I.
And there is talk here of getting celebrities involved, where you can have kind of a new pre-recorded celebrity wake-up message, sent as part of the service. So,
get woken up by Joe Montana or something.
Yeah, or Morgan Freeman.
Oh, I'd get up.
Or some, maybe you want a sexier sounding voice. I don't know.
Motivational speakers, or Zig Ziglar, or Tony Robbins.
Custom wake-up calls.
There's a pretty neat feed in the app too that right after you are woken up, you have the opportunity to post about your experience that you just had, so you can scroll through and you can see what other people are saying. Like, there's often a lot of like, oh, thank you, person from this place, or
right. It's a good way to keep people engaged and reusing it, I would guess.
Yeah, right? And seeing how other people woke other people up, I guess. But.
Sure. Now, one last question about you having used it. Did they give any kind of script, like make sure you say this or something, or it's just whatever you like?
I think it's just whatever you like, yeah.
So I could be like, wake up! If I wanted to, right? Or,
In the onboarding, they like kind of show you a wake-up call.
Okay.
So this girl calls this guy that's kind of groggy and he wakes up, but it shows you how it works or how a conversation might flow.
But there's nothing like limit your profanity or
I didn't see anything
steer
like that.
Clear of controversial topics as part of the
So after you guys, you said wake up, then you said where you from, Rome, where you from, Canada.
Yep.
And then it was click pretty much. Did you get into anything else? That was
not really. No.
Yeah. So in a minute you get. Good morning, wake up. Hi, I'm Steven. Where are you from? Russia. Where are you from? Canada. Bloop. And that's about it. Yeah. That's their model.
Yeah,
so the 5-minute extension would be a world of time then, because you could get into 2 more questions.
Whatever,
right?
Part of what... Oh, go ahead.
It's often interesting, I find, to even connect with people like here in person that are from totally different cultures. And the conversations that I often have with people like that, it's really interesting to just learn about what things are like. So I can imagine in a 5-minute conversation, like, oh, you're from Rome. Like, tell me about that. What's it like there?
Sure.
It could open up a cool discussion.
Well, and I was going to say, it almost opens up the possibility of exploring kind of extracting a separate value from this app and just connecting with strangers from around the world to have, a nice, short, pleasant conversation, even apart from the wake-up aspect. It's almost like the wake-up aspect is your hook to get you into it, but the ability to talk to somebody random who's, once again, hopefully not, a weirdo, is kind of the draw to keep you coming back, right? That's where the real value might end up being.
It's really interesting, the cultural aspect to it, too, because just recently I saw online there was, I think it was on Upworthy, they were talking about people's feelings and how people are offended at parties when you walk up to them and say, so what do you do for a living? Because you're immediately judging them based on one answer, and you're making a slew of assumptions about them based on, they say, well, I'm a sanitation engineer or a garbage man or I'm a cop. Yeah. You immediately go, or whatever. So, and in some cultures, that isn't the best way to approach people, to immediately say to them, so what do you do for a living? That can be seen as a little intrusive and stuff. So that might not be a great example, but I see a lot of cultural intricacies that'll be interesting that they'll have to work out. That might be the draw.
And there are other cultures where it's very normal to ask, like, how much do you weigh? And it's not considered a...
Right, how old are you?
Good morning, how much do you weigh?
Yes. This is very important to me. Interesting. Well, I'm going to have to try this app out now.
Give it a shot. It is cooler than it seems.
Yeah. I don't have any trouble waking up, but I would like to try to wake somebody else up and see.
I'm going to go ahead and have a nap later on, just so I can get woken up.
There you go. Perfect. Well, listen, guys, let's move away from the tech news and talk a little bit about Clipter. I always want to say like Clipster, but it's Clipter, right? Clipter.
Right, yep.
So let's talk Clipter, guys. Brett, Chris, John. Now, did the three of you kind of found it together, or how did Clipter come to be, and whose kind of brainchild is it here?
So Chris and I, we've been friends since back in the days of public school.
Wow. Okay.
So we finished up university and
you went to the same university, same program, or?
So we went to the same public school, the same high school, and then university separated.
Yeah.
Chris was at Waterloo and myself at Western, both studying computer science.
Okay.
But yeah,
Western has computer science?
They do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so we finished up university and got together and started down the path of this idea.
Okay. Did you just were hanging out one day and were like, listen, let's build an app, like here it is?
Right. So I guess like what's the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, sure.
So back in my university days, I guess two things. Back in my university days, we always took videos around our house, like me and my 5 roommates, and at the end of the year we'd compile it into, we'd call it the house movie. Okay. Which was just shots and stuff from everyone's perspective over the course of the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Which took a hell of a lot of effort to get that together from everyone's phones, computers, and then edit it into something.
Yeah, video editing is always a long, excruciating process for the most part, right?
Right.
It's like digital scrapbooking almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So between that and the way that we share things typically on social networking today is just a shot into a single moment.
Right.
A photo on Instagram, a shot from that night.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what we were looking to do is how can we build upon that to tell more of a story.
Okay.
And you're often part of experiences with friends. So how can you tell this story from everyone's point of view? And that's the path we kind of headed down.
Sure.
It almost seems similar to what Facebook did with the Facebook timeline, where they took all the pictures from your timeline, and that would be your individual one. And you're talking about doing it for a group of people, but
with video.
Yeah, with video.
With video and around a single kind of experience.
So on a single event.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah,
we've seen lots of things on there, from weddings to trips to
skydiving.
Lots, yeah.
And now an app like this can only work in a world where almost everybody has a video recording device in their pocket all the time.
Right.
And luckily, this is the world that we are in now, for the most part. Now, I don't know if we got into the details of this when you kind of introduced it earlier in the podcast, but so you're talking about everybody kind of contributing their own video clips to this overall story that they can put together. So what are the limitations there? There's a time limit to the video clips?
Sure. Yeah. So each clip that someone adds in can be up to 8 seconds long.
Okay. Do they have to record it through the app itself, or can I take videos that are already on my phone and import them into the app? Or?
You can do both of those. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And if the video I'm importing is more than 8 seconds,
you have the option to cut it down.
Trim it down.
Into that part.
Gotcha.
8 seconds keeps the pace of the whole video kind of moving.
Sure.
But yeah, these videos, as clips are added, they continue to build in a real time kind of notion, and so the people that are then watching along can watch as the story unfolds.
Okay.
And then Clipter remembers where you kind of left off watching. You can do things like subscribe to the video so that every time a new clip is pushed, your phone goes off. Mm-hmm. Oh, this happened at the wedding now.
Okay.
So those would be little 8-second pushes where you have 8 seconds more to watch.
Right.
Or up to 8 seconds, right? It doesn't have to be just 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
8 or less. And then I'm assuming then the overall story video gets assembled just chronologically as each one is added?
Yeah.
Like there's no editing process that happens afterwards necessarily, or is there?
No, it's all time-based.
Okay.
And so one of the things we do with that people really liked when they're on trips, you don't often have cell service all the time, but when you hop back on Wi-Fi, you have the opportunity to upload it. So Clipter will just take your videos and based on when they were shot, make sure it all ends up in the right order so that you have a chronological timeline of the story that happened.
So it does it based on when the video is shot, not necessarily based on when it was uploaded to...
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And then what if I wanted to do something, or is it possible to add a soundtrack behind the whole thing or something like that, or it's just
the raw clip footage of what's happening.
Okay.
So
cool.
So example, we came in here this morning as we were doing our mic tests. I flipped the camera on, recorded myself doing that. I invited Chris and John here to join in. And then throughout the course of the podcast, they've been adding little clips in, and at the end, we're going to have kind of a little behind-the-scenes look into TSP Weekly.
Awesome.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's exciting, actually, because I've never seen behind the scenes from another person's perspective.
So who is your target market for this? Who is the video scrapbook Who's wanting to put these videos together, and who's using it?
Right. I mean, every teen today is sharing absolutely everything and anything that they're doing online. So that age group, we're building off of them. That's the storyteller, the adventurer who's on a trip and wants to document the entire thing into one nice kind of. I don't know if the notion would be even like a home video. Like back in the day, everyone would make these home videos.
Yeah.
It's a really easy way to just put together a video of whatever you're up to.
Sure. Now, you talked about yourself and Chris kind of starting things off. So when did John come into the mix here?
I joined about 2 months ago, perhaps now. Yeah, so I'm sort of the hired gun, and more focused on the growth and marketing type side of things.
Okay.
So I give them the chance to dive deeper into the code and keep working on that stuff, and I push things forward.
Okay.
And I do a lot of I also say it's kind of a product management role, even though these guys are obviously doing that too. It's just in a lot of ways I just bring sort of one more voice to the table that with maybe a bit of a kind of I'm pushing them is how I think of it. Like I just they're buds. I come here and I say, "Holy crap, guys! Let's get something done." And
instead of just hanging out as friends, let's make this work.
I mean, they're working hard.
To break the tie too.
Yeah. Pardon?
Your vote gets to break the tie.
Yeah, I would say that.
There you go. So Brett and Chris would you guys describe yourself as mainly like the technical side of things, and John is bringing the business and marketing side of things, or do you guys kind of switch up roles? Or, I don't know.
We all have our own predefined roles. Like Brett is working on the front end.
Okay.
I'll be working on the back end, and then John's our marketing guy.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Sounds good.
But
I'm also an engineer though, so we can get along.
Cross-pollinate there.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can all speak the same language essentially when you're doing it. Okay. And why 8 seconds? How did you land at that magic number?
Played with a lot of numbers, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
You're familiar with Vine is as low as 6 seconds.
Yeah, Vine is 6, and Instagram has
up to 15.
15, yeah, okay.
And as it came together, just feeling the feel and the pace of this video that builds, because the video that builds does end up being a longer form piece of content.
Right.
But we try and do a lot of things like remembering where you left off watching, so you're never watching necessarily the full thing.
Sure.
You're like keeping pace with it as it goes. 8 seconds was something that, as we went higher, as we went lower, it felt like it kept the pace. And as we tweaked that number with users, it felt like it kept the pace of the story well.
Sure. Now let me ask you this: what happens if we're doing a Clipter? Me and my group of friends, we're out at some party somewhere, and somebody uploads a video, and we discover after it's uploaded that there's some content in there that maybe we didn't want to have
nipple made it
included or something.
Oh no!
A random
or
nipple.
some guy puking in the background or whatever, and we're like, oh crap! Like, is it possible to, after it's been added, like yank it out? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're totally in control as the person that created it of who can add their content, of if this content needs to go.
Right.
But you're the one that's in control.
So is there one person then who starts the event, like the Clipter, that particular story, and they have kind of master control?
Right.
Okay. And everybody else is just a contributor, but not necessarily an editor or a decision maker about those other aspects.
Right.
Okay.
And what are the privacy functions of it? Is it pushed out to the web, or is it my friend can see, or their friend can see my friend, or how is that? Do you have to log in, or how is the sort of the social system working?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
how do we view it after we've made one? That's just piggybacking on Stephen's question.
yeah, I guess there's kind of two different questions there. What's the privacy like, and how do you get it out there?
Yeah.
So from the app, we have the option to share everything out to Facebook, Twitter. When your story's done, you click a button. It's up on your YouTube channel.
Right.
Individual clips can be shared out to Instagram.
Okay.
Because it fits within the cap of there. Mm-hmm. So you can get everything off the network.
You can choose to push it publicly.
Yep.
Okay.
And then within the network, there's the same notion of privacy that Instagram would have with like private public profiles. Mm-hmm. But we also allow each clip in the story, you can have individual privacy settings on it. So say the 6 of us are hanging out. 6 of us.
Yeah.
5.
5 of us right now in the room. Yes.
Darren and I have an imaginary friend, and we appreciate you recognizing that.
Uh-huh.
So say we're all hanging out, and the pace of the story is going well. We're really comfortable with everything being public. But then there's one really funny thing that's happened that's just kind of great for us,
yeah.
but not everyone else.
Right.
So you can add that clip in and keep its privacy open to just the group.
Oh, okay.
So when we watch it, we're going to experience the full thing.
Right.
But when mom and grandma come on to check it out, they don't see that clip.
Yeah,
in
their
story.
clip is 8 seconds shorter if they're missing one.
Right.
One tab.
Now you're talking about being able to push this to other kind of social media sources, which is great. But do you yourselves also have a destination online specifically for Clipter that I can go to clipter.com or whatever and see the videos that are being pushed? Or
So
does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
So like the app itself is a full-fledged social network.
Right. Okay.
but
This is what I was getting at.
Yeah.
It's not just a thing for creating; it's also a thing for consuming and experiencing.
Right.
Yeah.
But you share that out, and it sends it to one of our homepages that just has a video player of the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we could go to Clipter and just troll and watch videos of other people's experiences and traveling.
Well, we don't have like an online news feed where you log in, but
Right.
you can essentially like it's an embedded video in our website.
Okay.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, what was my next question then? How long have you guys been doing it for then? Or how long have you been kind of? Are you like fully out there? Or are you still like beta testing? Or?
It's out
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
It's available on iOS.
Right.
We're only there right now.
Yep.
We started into it in the summer of 2013.
Okay.
Didn't really know what we were doing.
Sure.
Still figuring out what does everything look like on the back end, the front end.
Yeah.
How that comes together, and in January of 2014, we looked at applying into the Hyperdrive program here at Communitech.
Gotcha.
So we applied in here. We got in. That was a 6-month stint.
Yep.
We released it within that,
Okay.
and
So what was that like? Is that a whirlwind? 12-hour days, 24-hour days, or was it?
it was here, and then you go home and sleep for like 5 hours. So
Yeah.
they were long days.
Yeah.
Sure. Wow. So, but it's out now, which is the important thing.
Right.
Yeah. And how long has it been kind of out in the wild now?
We released it at the end of the summer.
Okay.
So
several months at least.
Almost,
yeah.
And are you finding you're getting some traction? Like, have things been growing, or how's that side of things?
Right. So we put it out there, and one thing we noticed when we were doing a lot of like the beta testing for it, which looking back, we should have just kind of put it out there earlier on the App Store. If people find it, they find it.
Yep.
But as a social network, you were really limited to connecting with the people that we allowed you to connect with on the beta.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that you could tell someone about and just like freely download.
Yeah.
So when we finally did release it, then for us, a lot of user feedback began, figuring out what was working, and we spent quite a bit more time iterating on the product again.
So how close
and then
were you?
about 2.
Yeah.
Like when you kind of did your beta test, you get some feedback from people. You okay, let's do it now. We've made some tweaks, and then you get some real feedback, like a bunch of feedback, right? Other than just your friends and family kind of stuff. The beta, the closed beta. So what was that experience like? Where you kind of get your idea out there, you say, okay, here it is. You push it out to the public, and your friends and family say, man, tweak. And you do that, and then you say, okay, everybody, and everybody goes, holy moly, what about this and this and this and this? And you go, holy smokes, did we miss a lot, or were you fairly close, or what was that experience like? Like, was there a lot of pivots there?
Right.
From the feedback, or
A lot of learning to just dumb things down.
Right.
Make it
okay, you were
stupider,
much too
make it
complicated for them.
simpler, yeah.
I remember before I was working with them, but I've been friends with them for longer than that. And when the app first came out, I remember there were everything took a lot of steps to do.
A lot of friction.
And there was a
users.
lot of what the hell is this icon even supposed to mean?
Right.
So yeah, it's just
Really
been
gorgeous
fascinating.
now, though. So if you're listening to this, please go download it.
It's smooth like butter now.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, we heard one of our kind of mentors that Stephen and I deal with in the mobile app world said, always assume that your users are drunk.
That's the test I love. Is when it was out there, I would be in a social situation with my friends, and checking out the app, and the drunk test is the best because you watch them fumble and you're like, of course,
It's
like,
right there, bro.
Like, why did I think that would have worked?
Right.
It really helps to. So that is a really good test.
Yeah, they can use it when they're intoxicated. Then your UI is probably
good,
okay.
I was thinking about that exact story as you were saying it too.
That's
good.
the one.
Yep.
Awesome. So you finished Hyperdrive. You got a product out there. Is there a monetization side of things that's happening? Or is there a plan for that? Or
Are you just acquiring users?
Are you
There's
guys
definitely
eating? Occasionally, if you have milk. Sorry, I guess that wasn't on the actual podcast. We were talking about breakfast earlier, but yeah, go ahead.
We're full on focused right now on just growth and acquiring users.
So build a user base, and we'll make some money off it once you get some sort of critical mass, I guess.
Right.
Yeah? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there a plan? Maybe you don't have to tell us what it is. I'm just wondering.
Yeah. No, we definitely thought about different roads to monetize it.
Okay.
But with all these kind of social network.
Yeah.
They could change. Like, wait, your plan could not work way later down the road. So.
No, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. It's called the iceberg principle. So you know you're going to hit something in the waters, right? But you can't see it because it's underwater. But you know you're going to hit it. But and you got to be agile so that when you do come up against it, you're able to respond and the boat doesn't sink, right?
Sure.
Because you know stuff's going to come up, but it's in the future. Yeah. And especially in that the social media, it's so quickly changing. I always go to my 13-year-old and say, "What's happening right now?"
What's
and he'll
the
tell
cool
me.
thing? Yeah.
With what he's using. He was first to introduce Kick to me, and a lot of discovery through the 13-year-old who was a gamer and
It's a good
level
thing
90 World of Warcraft player, and
it's a good thing he's still telling you because
he's still
at some
talking to
point
me.
that might not happen. Right?
So what is it for him right now? What are you when you talk to your son?
Yeah, so
Like,
he's
what's he
using
using?
Kick. Right now, he's still using like the iPod Touch. So
Okay.
we're just getting into the cell phone thing for him.
Right.
And I'm so reticent to buy a sort of a $30 or $40 a month plus a big expensive device just so he can make a phone call when he's not around wireless. So the whole thinking for me is I really don't want to buy this expensive commitment of a couple $1,000 or $50 a month plus the 2-year commitment, right?
Yeah.
When he's got the ability to text and to communicate, as long as he's at home or at McDonald's or school, or wireless is growing. So
yeah.
Well, these things are now really anything but a phone at
right.
this point.
Exactly.
And probably the more he's not at home, the more useful something like that will be, right? As he's getting older, you want to be able to get him wherever he is.
Yeah, right now, all we want to do is check in when I'm not at home to make sure he is at home.
Sure.
Because we got rid of our home phone. So we don't have that anymore. So because it was just them. It was just my 2 kids would use it. Their 10-year-old friends would call them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why am I paying $30 a month for that? They can walk down the street. That's 2 doors down, guys. Get out of the house.
I think landline phones are already more or less obsolete.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't had one for several years ourselves.
And it was a great decision until I realized, wait a minute, I have 2 kids. That means I have to get 2 more phones. So I'm going to have 4 phones now instead of 1 home phone.
Yeah.
So you think you're cutting them, but
I thought I was ahead of it, but I'm only going to be ahead of it for a couple months.
It's all just the new world now. Fair enough. So moving forward then, guys, well, first of all, I wanted to ask too, have you guys done any fundraising, or have you looked into
Kickstarter?
getting financing or bringing investors on board, or is it just like self-funded still at the moment, or how does that work?
So there's the hyperdrive program that we applied into and got into.
So they provide some funding for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
So.
Fair enough. I'm just assuming if you're dealing with a lot of media being uploaded online, like
There's
hopefully
some
that's
costs
getting
associated with
yeah,
that.
like there's I'm sure there's bandwidth and storage costs there, right?
Yeah, totally.
Compared to a lot of other startups that might be doing stuff.
So we run too is all our backends on Amazon.
Right.
And part of coming into hyperdrive was we got a huge amount of credit towards Amazon backend.
Gotcha.
So
is that like S3 or something you're using? Yeah.
AWS, S3, all that stuff. Yep. So as much as like we got the hyperdrive funding, we also got this like Amazon credit for a bunch of money too. So
that'll give you
Okay.
a nice
kind of like
long
on
runway.
top of it as well.
Gotcha.
Which is nice.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Especially for startups, right? If you're trying to bootstrap it to success, then
Right.
yeah, got to have those resources in place. Awesome. And let me ask real quick, John. Then you're kind of covering some of the marketing side of things. Like, so what's your day to day like in working with Clipter here? Like,
That's secret.
yeah.
No, that's not. It's a lot of it is talking about the app in a kind of abstract way, almost too much. But like, what does this mean to people? How should we talk about it?
Yeah.
What's the message you're trying to get across? What are you trying to do at this point?
Exactly. Like the best, different things. Like, I guess somebody that Brett knows gave us this idea of language market fit, and so just the way that we talk about the app is really important, and hitting the right place of getting people to understand the need for it in their life with the 10 seconds of attention that you might have from them the first time.
Yeah.
We're spending a lot of time right now working through the onboarding process and that sort of thing. So fitting that all together, and then as well, a lot of what I do is kind of like a business development. Like we're starting to leverage the relationships we have in this community more. We're starting to work with Laurier's athletics department to understand how they tell stories and use social media, and how they can use Clipter to get their teams more engaged. So it could be a great, a use case would be, say, football teams going on a road trip, and they can the right students participating at the right, like with a bit of social media savvy and coaching, can really use it as a powerful way to help their friends back at the college follow along. So there's sort of that's kind of a top-down approach, and then there's also a bit of a bottom-up approach where we're really working hard on building out our Instagram presence, because it's and with having video there now, it's just a really perfect, it's a great fit with the kind of user that we're looking for.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking too, when you were talking about getting teenagers involved, like seeing if maybe you can get high school students to be using this, or maybe even teachers to be using your app for class projects and things like this, right? So if they're doing some sort of I don't know, video scavenger hunt or something, or going out and finding, cool examples. I'm just remembering when I was doing like art class and stuff, we had to go around and find examples of like line, shape, space, color, texture, whatever, things like this. And if they can, construct them and submit their class project as a Clipster, what do you call a Clipster video? A
Clipter
story?
Clipter. No S.
Sorry, guys. I knew I was going to mess it up sometime.
If we can't even get people to say the app name, right?
Yeah,
how are we going to figure out how to describe
it's like Copter, but Clipter. Okay, so
Clopter.
Yes. So they, but if you get people doing like school projects using Clipter.
Then you get a cease and desist from Desire to Learn, I think.
Well, I wonder, but at least that's a way that teachers can see it as a productivity tool, but they're introducing it to your target market, right, through school projects and stuff. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's actually an interesting idea that you brought that up, because we had a group of students, friends and a few friends of friends, that it was a university environment, but. They had to put together a quick video. It was like a scavenger hunt or something like that.
Sure.
And most of them had to do it on their phones, but these guys were like, let's just use this. It's a really quick way to put it together. And it worked. So, applying that down to the high school, that's really
Actually, I just thought of a use case that would be perfect because my 13-year-old could use your product because he, I guess there's... he's a scooter guy, not a skateboarder. He's on his scooter. So he does a bunch of tricks and stuff, and he can do flips and zips arounds. I don't know the terminology. But apparently there's a couple local scooter shops that sponsor kids, 12, 13 years old. So he was one of his friends put a video together and submitted it to the skateboard company and then got a package of stickers and was officially sponsored on this company's website. So my son was hot for this. He wanted to be sponsored. So he went out with his friend and his iPod to make a video. But the success of that, you can't do the trick you want in the one time you videotape it.
Right.
But if he had the library of every time we go out, we're going to videotape our tricks, and Clipter would be able to put that together for him, then to give to the skateboard company to say, look, here's the beginning of the tricks, here's the progression, here's all the stuff, and so then I can see a value for that. Then they, he doesn't have to do all that work because at 13 and
edit out all the bad ones where he fell on his face,
right?
Yeah,
or maybe keep a few just for funny. But
well, we can connect with your son after this.
Yeah,
it's a good idea.
That's the kind of one of the advantages is it's just a super useful tool. There's a lot of we get talking to people and they eventually are like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I'm doing already.
Sure.
I just would be way easier. So there's the simple tool that can be pushed out to other networks, and then there's the network itself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a 1-2 strategy, something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think the more that people are trying it, the more kind of use cases you're going to see. Like maybe that killer use for it is still something that's going to be discovered, and then things just explode from there.
Yeah,
right?
one pivot away from millions.
Yeah, that's right. Before we wrap things up, guys, maybe just let us know, like, where can our listeners find you if they want to, use Clipter, view what other people are doing, or connect to you with social media, like. You're online.
Yep.
Where can we get you?
We are on the line.
Yeah. What's the website?
So you can go to clipter.com.
Okay.
Check us out. CLIPTER.
Okay.
Search us in the apps, the iOS App Store, and download it. We're not on Android yet, but that will be coming down the road.
Sure. You have a Twitter account or Facebook or anything like that?
All those are at Clipter app.
Okay. And Instagram, I think you said too. You guys are on that. Okay, very cool. We can put some links to those, destinations in the posting for the podcast, so hopefully people can find you easily.
Cool.
Good. Awesome. And
maybe we'll link in the behind the scenes video that we've kind of made here as well.
Yeah. Seriously, if you guys can let me know when it's up, and I'll post some links.
It's up right away because the beauty of Clipter is it's real time and live.
Awesome. So we will definitely link to that and let our listeners check that out as well.
Yeah, I'll have to make sure you don't have any nipples showing.
You can see just how beautiful me and Steven are in video.
I would have smiled a lot more if I had known.
Fair enough. Well, let's wrap things up here, guys. First of all, let's just want to thank Brett and Chris and John from Clipter. Thanks for being on the show today, guys. It was awesome to have you. And we're getting another video done as we're wrapping up.
The wrap-up video.
We want to say thanks again to Communitech for letting us host the TSP Weekly podcast here in the Communitech Hub today. And to thank you, our listeners, for listening to another episode. Please feel free to send us your comments, your questions, your criticisms, your feedback. Our email address is feedback@tspweekly.com, or you can just leave a comment on our website, which is tspweekly.com. So, from myself, Darren Conley, my co-host, Stephen Campbell, and from our guests, Brett Madill, Chris Recalis, and John Mardlin from Clipter. Yeah, from Clipter. Not Clipster, Clipter.
Got it.
Thanks for joining us here today, and we'll see you all next week.